Sales are easy. It's making the call that's hard. Hi, my name is Dave Gallegos. I've spent the last 25 years in the mortgage industry and a lifetime in sales. In this show, I'll bring that experience, expertise, and the experts I've met to you with actionable advice to improve your sales. It's not magic. You just make the call.
Hi, everyone. I'm Dave Gallegos, the president of Zenith Home Loans, and this is Make the Call. I've been in the sales industry now for probably 40 years of my adult life in one form or another, all kinds of background, and starting my first sales job working in a boiler room, banging on the phone, doing the numbers, and all the way up to the last 26 years I've been in the mortgage industry. Make the Call is a podcast for sales professionals in general, but with a focus on the real estate and the mortgage lending industry and the people that work in that field. Because, I'm super passionate about the industry. It was the first, when I started selling mortgages and helping people buy homes, it was the first time I sold a product that really made a difference in people's lives. Up before that, it was always, I made a commission because somebody bought something and not necessarily made a huge difference in people's lives from an impact standpoint. And when I started doing this, it just changed everything for me. So that's it. I bring a lot of experience to this, and that's what this podcast is about, is to help sales professionals become better at doing their job and reaching the levels of success that they're looking for. So first, I want to talk about sales in general and what makes a full commission sales job, because this is primarily for people that are in full commission. They get no salary. They don't have a safety net. And why that's important, because the allure of commission sales for me has always been no lid on my income, right? I mean, I think that's what most people are looking for. They're looking for an opportunity when they decide to take the leap into a full commission sales job of, I got no paycheck coming in unless I actually close a deal. And that was exciting to me. I never liked the feeling of somebody else putting a lid on my income and earnings, meaning that no matter how good a job I did, I was still going to get paid the same amount. I was an assistant store manager at King Soopers here in Denver for a while, and back in my early 20s, after I'd gone into sales and then gotten back out. And that's what I hated about that job, is like, I could be the best assistant manager on the planet. I was still going to make the same amount of money as everybody else. And if I got promoted to being a store manager, this is how much money we're going to pay you to be a store manager. And I just hated that. It's like, yeah, but I can't make more. Like, I want to make more, and I want to do more and make more. And that's what the allure of commission sales was for me. Now, what's the downside? Well, the downside is, we all know that, right? No business, no money. And that's what's hard about it for a lot of people, right? The negative aspect. So I was always focused on the carrot and not the stick when it came to commission sales, and that's what made it so attractive for me, and that's what I believe makes it so attractive to so many people, is that opportunity for earning with having no lid on your income and being able to do it. And so that's exciting, right? Like, I mean, that's what charges me up, is the more I do, the more I make, and that's what I wanted. So when we think about some more of those pitfalls of commission sales, is, what happens when you don't sell, and you can get into a really negative cycle with what happens when you're not selling. And I think that's where there's a lot of psychology in sales. That's probably one of the things that I found most intriguing about it when I first got in the business, was the mental aspect of sales. And where a lot of people fail is they focus on what it is they don't want instead of focusing on what they do want. And when it's a negative outcome, it's easier to, we have fear-based brains where we're more focused on what we're trying to avoid. And your ability to focus on what you want over what you want to avoid has a big impact, I think, in the results that you end up getting. So your mindset, and we're going to talk a lot about mindset in this podcast, your mindset is such a critical factor. I call it a CSF, a critical success factor, in your ability to achieve at the highest levels. And what I have found for sure is that the most successful salespeople are the people with the best mindset, the most positive outlook, the most forward thinking, I know what I'm going for and I'm going to go get it mindset, rather than the mindset of, I think a lot of the people who don't succeed at sales, the people that I've coached over the years that haven't been able to break through, they spend too much time thinking about what it is they don't want. Mario Andretti was interviewed, I think, by Darren Hardy once, and they asked him, what's the success to being a successful race car driver? And Mario Andretti's response was, don't look at the wall. In other words, you're going to hit what you look at. I think salespeople who focus on what it is they don't want when it comes to being a salesperson, they end up getting what it is they don't want instead of focusing on what they do want, which is becoming more successful at sales. So what's the secret, right? What's the secret to massive success in sales? Well, I can tell you what the common trait is of people who don't succeed at sales. They don't prospect enough. It's that simple. And now that you know that, the opposite is true. The most successful people prospect all the time. And it's just understanding that the secret is doing enough prospecting, because this business just comes down to leads, right? Like if you have plenty of leads, you're going to do the business that you want to do. Obviously, you have to gain more skill and knowledge about your product and more skill at selling. But the prospecting activity is the key. And where people fail is they don't do enough prospecting. It's the number one reason salespeople fail at any profession, is that they're not doing enough prospecting. And then that leads back to mindset, right? Like if they're not doing enough prospecting, they don't get good results. They think about the negative results and what they don't want. They prospect even less. And it's a vicious cycle, and it'll lead you down to failure. And that's what you don't want, right? Because what you're really looking for is the opposite of that. And so your mindset has to be, if I do the prospecting activity at the level I need to do it at, I'm going to achieve the results that I'm looking for. So what's the secret to being an effective prospecting machine is what you need to do, right? So I'll tell you what my experience has been is that the people who decide that they're going to be excellent at sales are the people who decide they're going to focus their day on it. And so, we've always said in business that if you show me what you're focusing on, if you show me in other words, when it comes to your personal finances, if I look at your checkbook, or if I look at your check register, or if I look at your credit card spending habits, I know what's important to you. So if I look in sales, if I look at your calendar and I see what you're scheduling in your calendar every day, I'll be able to tell you what's important to you. And if you haven't time blocked specific prospecting activity into your calendar on a consistent basis, then you're not giving it enough attention. And if you don't give it enough attention, you're not going to get the results that you're looking for. So now let me go back to that mindset part of our conversation today, because the mindset is really the thing that makes such a difference here. Because if you don't have the right approach to this, if you're not thinking the way that you need to think at a high level, you're not going to succeed in sales. And so the most successful salespeople have the most positive attitudes. I've seen it over and over again. I think we all know that instinctively, don't we? At the end of the day, you know that you're dealing with somebody who's really successful. They're more positive. And, a lot of people say it's like, well, yeah, they're more positive because they're more successful. I was like, chicken and the egg. At the end of the day, if they weren't positive, they wouldn't be successful. And just to be clear, successful people still have negative things happen to them, but they remain positive in the face of those things because they know that that's the difference when it comes to selling. And so you've got to have a mindset management practice that is really powerful. That'll be something else that we cover on this podcast, is what is your mindset approach to the business that you're in? What are you doing to cultivate a really positive mindset? Because it should be an intentional act on a regular basis, like literally every single day, multiple times a day. You're going to have to invest in cultivating a positive mind, because if you don't invest in cultivating a positive mind, the negative is going to get in. We'll talk about different strategies and tactics and approaches to that in this podcast. Just know that without it, you're fighting an uphill battle. It's definitely an uphill battle. And the reason is because we're surrounded by negativity. You got to be really careful here, because watching the news, reading the newspaper, listening to any reality television shows, sports radio, you have to be very intentional about what you're letting in. And you have to be intentional about the approach that you're taking when it comes to feeding your mind on a positive basis. I'm going to reference a lot of the authors that talk about this stuff. Darren Hardy is one of the authors, a thought leader that I followed for years. His book, The Compound Effect, is an amazing book. In that book, he talks about you've got to flush out the dirty water on a regular basis because, and what he's talking about is you've got to keep pouring positive material into your mind because without it, the negative material just fills up and it impacts you on a regular basis. So who you spend time with and what they talk about, what they focus on impacts you. All of your influences, so what you read, what you're listening to, what you're watching, and who you associate with, the company that you keep. Right? So it's been said that we're the average of the 5 people we spend the most time with. And so take a look around because the people you spend the most time with are going to have an impact on your mindset. And so such a critical aspect. And probably of all the things that we're going to talk about, mindset management is up there in the top 3 or 4 most important things when it comes to picking up the phone and making the call. My personal journey in sales. My first sales job was working in a boiler room, and it was a grind. It was a little embarrassing. There was a lot of people I was working around that I wouldn't want to have spent a lot of time with, a little sketchy character-wise, and the product was advertising specialties, pens. You sell a box of pens with a body shop's name on them, and we would call businesses all over the country with kind of a sketchy sales pitch about how they won a trip to Las Vegas if they just bought a box of pens. So that was the sales job. But what was good about that job, what it taught me was the power of numbers, where if you have to make a lot of calls, and it was totally a numbers game, and all sales is a bit of a numbers game. You improve your skill set, and the more you improve your skill set, the better you're going to become at sales. So it becomes better, when an inexperienced salesperson has to talk to 10 people to close one deal, and a really experienced salespeople can talk to 10 people and close 4. He's got 4 times better a batting average. And so you do have to do those reps, but the numbers matter, right? So if you're not getting the reps in, and that's what that first sales job taught me. Over the years, I was always involved in sales roles where I was doing corporate sales. I sold individual consumer business. And when I got in the mortgage space, that was when I realized that sales was different than everything I had done before that, because I had never spoken directly to consumers in a face-to-face environment like that, and I really fell in love with it. That once I was able to, because for me, it was perfect because I got to connect with the person. And when I was doing corporate sales, I was selling to somebody, but they were buying for another entity. So it wasn't even selling to them as much. And it was just a different product. And it wasn't me. I was just selling the company's product. This was selling me. And this business, real estate and mortgage lending, I think is some of the funnest sales that you can be involved in, because you're really having an opportunity to connect with human beings and make a big difference in their lives. And that's fun. And honestly, if you're not having fun doing it, if it's just for the money, then you're going to burn out on it. And no amount of money is going to make you happy or satisfied. So that's it for today's first episode. I know it was a little short, but what I really wanted to do was invite you to listen, and I hope that you subscribe and share the podcast with your friends and other professionals and anybody in a sales role. My goal of this episode is to just add as much value as I can from 30 plus years of selling experience, plus at a high level, along with all the success that we've had with the people that work at our company and what I've been able to teach them and their approach. I really do think that you're going to learn a lot. My goal is to make sure that you get as much out of this time and investment as possible. The goal here is to make you a better salesperson and to help you recognize all of the things that you can do, because everything matters. Any kind of business that you're in, every detail is important. And when it comes to becoming successful in sales, all the details matter, some more than others for sure. And we're going to figure out what those are and what those are for you. But at the end of the day, and this is going to be really fun, at the end of the day, you're going to find that you will become better at sales by listening to this podcast. So tell your friends. Love to have more subscribers. Thanks for listening, and I hope you have an awesome day.
Thank you for listening to Make the Call with Dave Gallegos, brought to you by Zenith Home Loans. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe to the show anywhere you listen to podcasts, and share the show with a friend or colleague who would also find value.